Here's what's coming up on today's show.
And I think I'm lucky. I found my calling. And when you have that desire and that passion, you enjoy what you do. You have fun along the way. You're not focused on just trying to make money. It really does change the mindset. And I think I really got lucky, really blessed to have found something that truly is the perfect fit for me and my personality.
This is the Retire Happy podcast with John Amarino, a fiduciary financial advisor at Securus Financial in the San Diego area, and Thomas O'Connell, president of International Financial Advisory Group, Inc. in Parsippany, New Jersey. Together, they'll be keeping retirement happy from coast to coast.
Welcome back to another episode of the Retire Happy podcast. I'm your host on the West Coast, John Amarino, and I am joined by my esteemed co-host and great friend on the East Coast, Tommy O'Connell. Tommy, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, John, I'm doing great. How are you today?
Good. It's a beautiful day here in recording in San Diego in the high upper 70s. So
nice. 2.5 weeks till catchers and pitchers report. So spring is right around the corner.
yeah, I'm not quite sure I'm as excited as I am for the Padres this year, but we'll see. We'll see.
Well, we'll see what Juan Soto does for the Yankees.
Yeah, hopefully he doesn't need an adjustment period. But folks, last week we had our first podcast of 2024, and we kicked it off with what we called one of the two superstars to kick off the year, and that was who would be the funniest guy in the room, as he would say, and definitely the smartest guy in the room, Mark DiOrio. And now we are following Mark up with the main event. This guy is a life changer. He's changed Tom O'Connell's life. He's changed my life. He's changed probably thousands of advisors' lives and tens of thousands of clients' lives. And he is definitely the most charismatic guy in the room. And that is none other than the CEO, the founder of Brookstone Capital Management, Mr. Dean Zayed.
Ladies and gentlemen, get on your feet and put your hands together for the CEO and founder of Brookstone Capital Management. It's Mr. Dean Zayed.
It's a great intro, my friend. I really appreciate it. I'm honored to be on the podcast, coming at you from the middle of the country. So let's not forget, you are both on either coast here, but there's a beautiful swath of land.
Oh, you're in
San
flyover
Diego.
country.
Yeah, so I'm in Chicago and anchoring the Midwest for the crew today.
Yeah, but
And,
you're the keystone.
For our audience, we aren't on video. But we're on video, the three of us, but so you can't see it. But this is the first time I've ever seen Dean blush, or is that sunburn from Cabo?
That's the Cabo sun, my friend. Yes.
Okay.
I missed that sunscreen that one day, so.
So, Dean, kind of looking back at your past history, you actually have a law degree. You started out as a trust attorney and founded Perkins and Zayed. Then you became a financial advisor because you saw you had a vision there, and you were a two-time National Financial Advisor runner-up of the year, which I would have voted you, and I know Tommy would have just voted you Financial Advisor of the Year, but you had a bigger vision beyond that. And in 2006, you founded Brookstone Capital Management. And in 2006, Dean, how much AUM did you have under management?
Well, it's called a goose egg, my friend, right? I mean, Brookstone was a startup company as an RIA, which we can talk about. But it's kind of a fun story. Obviously, we've come from zero to a much larger number today, actually over 9 billion in assets under management. It's the journey that counts, frankly, and it's just been a heck of a ride. And like, to use our baseball analogy, Tommy, I've been in the bottom of the first inning for a while. Maybe we're in the top of the second now, maybe. But to tell you where my mindset is in terms of the work we want to do at Brookstone, to work with advisors like you and to help thousands of Americans and hopefully thousands more, we are really, truly just getting started in our minds.
you and I, Dean, have talked about this a lot in the past whenever we get together and stuff. But we originally met even before the founding of Brookstone in the old John Naylor days, when you were first talking to insurance groups about assets under management.
Right. That was before Brookstone. And, part of the philosophy and the mindset and kind of the overall approach at the time was trying to look in the future a little bit, to be honest. And to me, the crystal ball is always tough to, predict things. I did have a high conviction about the fiduciary duty being a big part of the future in the industry. Things were pointing more towards fee-based, fiduciary-based, independent-based advice. And that's kind of the prelude to me starting Brookstone. Was I was acting as a fiduciary. Actually, I'm a triple threat fiduciary. I like to say I'm a lawyer, I'm a CFP, a certified financial planner, and I am a Series 65 licensee, like you guys are, an investment advisor representative. So each one of those roles actually requires, by law, both ethically and legally, that we act as fiduciaries. So to me, it's in my DNA as, first an attorney and then as a financial advisor, that we must always do what's in our client's best interest, unlike other standards of care in the industry that are lower. And so that's part of the overall philosophy I brought when I said, the industry needs a fiduciary-based firm to work with other like-minded advisors like Tommy O'Connell and like John Amarino. And that's really kind of the backdrop to saying, hey, I'm doing great in my practice. I've got this law firm. It's 2006. My kids were young. But I do have a strong conviction on this other idea that, of course, I called Brookstone Capital Management, to really work with other advisors, more of a B2B model. So that's kind of the story. I mean, we can talk about the history ad nauseum, but it's given me some of the greatest professional rewards you can imagine to work with about 1,000 advisors and positively impact their lives, their practice, their staff, and of course, their clients. Talk about gratification. I mean, I couldn't be more proud and happy to have been in this position. 18 years later, I still love what I do. And again, top of the second inning, guys, right? We're not going anywhere.
Yeah, and you say top of the second inning. Just in my now 8 years at Brookstone already, that's no joke. It's like I think I got to Brookstone. I almost feel like it was batting practice when we just weren't even getting the game started. And it's every year you have something new going on, and really to give our listeners a feel for Dean and Tommy. You can you'll agree with me on this. You're the CEO of a $9 billion industry. A lot of people in the financial industry with much lower amounts of assets under management have huge egos. And Dean is not one of those guys. I mean, he is charismatic, but he is a guy that when he walks through the hallways is giving hugs, shaking hands, and he makes you feel welcome, whether you're a new advisor or an advisor that's been there or the top advisor. He really is the guy, and we don't work for Dean. We're partners with Dean, and Dean's energy, people want to be around that. And every time he steps on that stage, right, Tommy, you could see the positive impact he wants to have on not only our lives, but more importantly, our clients' lives. And he's always thinking out of the box.
Yeah, and you can see the audience sit up a little straighter, right? And I'm being honest, when Dean steps on the stage, people take notice and people want to hear what he has to say. And going back to something that you said just a second ago, we go to these big conferences that Brookstone puts on, and Dean's walking the hallways and walking the rooms and everything like that. And he remembers everybody's name. He probably remembers all their spouses and kids. I mean, it's impressive that it's not just, hey, buddy, how you doing kind of thing, right? It's by name, by where you're located, things that are going on in your life. So it is very impressive. And I'm sure he works hard at it, right? Trying to remember everybody, but also some of it just seems like a very natural, fluid part of his personality, just something innate that he's born with. It's impressive. It really is.
Well, you got me. You're really blushing now, Tommy. I mean, all
There
right.
you go.
You finally got there. Well, you guys are very sweet, very kind. My quick response is, I mean, again, it sounds a little predictable to say that we all have a passion for what we do. I like that word passion. I'll take that a step further. I've got a couple of kids that are just kind of starting their careers, and it's fun to see them think outside the box and what they want to do and the impact they want to have as professionals. And so the phrase I use with them early on now is this phrase, burning desire. I say, look, life is short. We're all in a pretty privileged situation. You've got to start at the bottom and work your way up. But the most important thing as you evolve and you're going to make changes in your career and you're going to make mistakes. And this is advice I'd give to most young folks today is you've got to figure out what you have a true burning desire for.
Right.
What you're describing, I mean, I know it sounds a little cheesy, but it's the truth. I have a burning desire for everything we do together as professionals, for the industry, for retirees, for giving good advice, being a fiduciary, being an entrepreneur and starting and growing and managing a large company. All of that is one package that I have this phenomenal burning desire. And I think I'm lucky. I found my calling. And when you have that desire and that passion, you enjoy what you do, you have fun along the way, you're not focused on just trying to make money. It really does change the mindset. And I think I really got lucky, really blessed to have found something that truly is the perfect fit for me and my personality.
Yeah. And, one thing that from the very, and we'll talk about training in a little bit, but from the very first days, Dean goes ahead and he talks about the advisor, the basic training, and you really open your books as to how you did things from a CFP level, from a fiduciary level to build successful retirements for your client. And for a lot of your things that you did, your model is carried out through advisors like Tommy and I. We use a lot of, I mean, I know you talk about Brookstone being one of the largest structured notes RIAs in the industry. I mean, that came from your personal practice, and it's really been a blueprint for success for a lot of advisors, including myself and Tommy. So now that we've kind of established that, what's new for Brookstone Capital Management? Like, we've come from Brookstone Capital Management, and how many years ago 2 or 3 years ago, maybe more than that, you brought another level on Brookstone Insurance Group, right?
Correct.
What's new? What can our clients look forward to?
I'd focus on a couple of things on the investment side in terms of the what's new question for 2024. So we all probably know what an ETF is, an exchange traded fund. I affectionately labeled them in my own way 20 years ago, the mutual fund of the 21st century, which is really kind of what they are. An ETF is a fund, a diversified fund with a specific target way or genre or style to manage money for that particular fund. But unlike a mutual fund, it trades like a stock. It's got this daily ongoing liquidity. It's got low costs, and it's really tax efficient. They don't have these onerous tax distributions that mutual funds potentially have. So in terms of the structure of the chassis, the ETFs have exploded the last 20 years from virtually no assets in there as a class of investment product to a couple of $1 trillion or more in thousands of different ETFs. And so we know that the structure and or the chassis is the right one for you to be able to manage money in a really efficient, low-cost manner. And so Brookstone has now recently started our own asset management side of the business called Brookstone Asset Management. We started it late last year with 8 inaugural ETFs. So 8 of these exchange-traded funds, each of which is comprised of some of Brookstone's best ideas in terms of money management. So they're all different. For example, one is focused on dividend-paying stocks. It'd be our 30 best overall high conviction dividend-paying stocks that would comprise that specific ETF. And it's actively managed to always have what we think are our best 30 ideas. That's one example of one of the Brookstone or BAM, Brookstone Asset Management ETFs. Another one will focus on value stocks, another one on growth stocks. They've all done really well since they began late last year, but it's an example of us continuing to innovate our platform by having our own asset management arm with our highest conviction strategies chassied in the right structure, which is this ETF structure. I could stop right there because you did mention structured notes earlier. You talk about passion. I think you guys know this. I mean, I have been at the forefront and thought leadership of the structured notes as again, another style of investing that we've had just fabulous success doing. And I'm going to pause to see if you have any questions about the ETFs, because I do have another fresh idea on the structured notes front.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I remember the talk a number of years ago is creating the structured note ETF type of program. And that I'm very much looking forward to.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I mean, the structured notes have been, I think I've been using them for my clients for about 6-7 years. And, we had asked Mark, I think in that time, less than a handful of notes have been called. And so clients have just been getting those nice returns year after year after year. So
for sure.
What's the new and exciting thing there with structured notes?
Yeah, let's talk about it. And maybe just for our listeners, just to kind of take a step back real quick, a structured note is a bond instrument. So the way that I would describe it is, unlike a traditional bond in which a company or a municipality or the government, issues this debt or this bond with a couple of really basic terms, right? Hey, we're going to pay you interest. Let's say it's 2%, 3%. And we're going to pay you that interest as long as that bond is alive and well. And when it matures, there's always a maturity date. As long as we, the issuer of this bond, who are borrowing this money from you, are not defunct or bankrupt, we're going to give you your money back, your principal investment back. So that's a typical bond 101. And 30 seconds, you loan them the money, you get your interest back, and you get your money back at the end of that bond term. What a structured note really is a bond with a different risk reward profile that up front. And it looks something like this, really, where Brookstone is honed in on the structure that we love and have had this great success. It's really on the income side. And that's this structure. Let me just lay that out for our listeners. It's, hey, we'll pay you even more interest than that 2 or 3 or 4%. It's averaged 8, 9, 10. You guys know I'm not here to sell in returns, but it's actually double-digit returns for the better part of the last couple of years.
Absolutely.
But in return, you could lose money if the market, based on 3 of the leading indices out there, goes down by more than 30% over the term of that bond or that structured note, which we always pick a 1-year term. We love those short terms. So the trade-off is you could lose, but along the way, you're making a lot more income or interest with that 30% buffer, which we like because historically you do not get a lot of 30% moves in the course of a year. And so if you keep buying these bonds and laddering these bonds and collecting your outsized interest, and you just stick with that program like we've all done as a fixed income or safe money type category, it's just blowing away anything else out there that's comparable.
I think one of the important things you said there, sorry to interrupt, was about the laddering piece of it, right? This is not something that you take, all of someone's fixed income portfolio and put it into a single issue. Right. This is something where you do want to space it out. You want roughly 12, maybe somewhere between, I would say, 6 and 12 anniversary dates throughout the year.
I totally agree. And when you do that, even if you have a note that might lose money every so often, which hasn't happened very often at all in multiple years of doing this, it does actually kind of get lost in the wash because of the outside returns, the consistency of those income payments that over a long stretch of time, and I've used notes now for 15 plus years, it has been the single best safe money fixed income performer in the industry, hands down. Again, they're a little different, a little clunky to understand, but for advisors like us, once you have that education, which we can talk about, Brookstone really trying to continue to educate in that area, It's become a really, really special part of our advice. Not the only thing we advise on, obviously. But John, to get to one last new thing, I got to give our listeners the second one. So now that you understand the chassis of this note, we call this structured note that allows you to have a different risk reward profile. Oh, by the way, they're issued by the largest banks in the country, all the big names that you'd all recognize: JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley. They're the ones that are actually issuing these notes with these preset risk reward profiles that you know up front, right? So that's what Brookstone's done, is we've gone to these banks and negotiated these terms to a point now where we are the largest structured note buyer as an advisory firm in the country, and therefore getting the absolute best returns and the best terms of any other investment firm in the country. We can say that proudly because it's true. We're taking our success on the income side of notes, where we get these, double-digit interest payments with this 30% buffer, which we love the income story. But you can use the same type of note and that chassis and now build a note that's going to be more growth oriented. We've been now slowly introducing some of our best ideas to say, hey, if you want to be in the market, Mr. Klein, you like what's going on, you want that growth, you don't need the income per se, but you may want to get some other protections. What if I told you can get 150% of the upside of the market over a 2-year term? So leverage 1.5x on what the market does, and you don't participate in the first 15% of downside. It's a hard buffer. If it goes down 20 over those 2 years, you lose 5. But if it goes up 50, you're going to get 75%, 1.5. Again, take a step back. The math of this risk reward, more of the upside with great protection on the downside, chassised in a note that you own, issued by one of the largest banks in the country, that sits right inside your brokerage account managed by John or Tommy. It's in Schwab, it's in Fidelity, it's a registered CUSIP, it is a registered security, and that's the type of experience we think on the growth side of the note business can actually be a huge win for all of us, as folks are looking for, some growth still besides the income story.
Wow, that's awesome. I mean, to be able to have and a lot of those, 15%. You guys, a couple of years ago, we talked about Mark Dury about this with the buffered ETFs. I mean, those have provided tremendous value, especially as bond replacement instruments, after 2022. So to be able to have that, but then have that, like you said, that 1.5 multiplier. I mean, it's just more innovative thinking coming from, the investment committee over there at Brookstone.
And then you throw those into something, maybe, if possible, like into your Roth IRA account, right? Imagine what you're doing for your future tax-free income streams by just taking advantage of that. There's nothing out there that we run across brokers all the time that we're in competition with in other companies, other asset managers. We have never, in my 5-6 years of doing structured notes, I have yet to come across another agent, rep, broker, whatever you want to call them, that does it. Not one.
Yeah, it's exciting stuff. And you're right. And you guys, there's no two better guys, by the way, let's be honest, in the country that can talk about some of the other strategies that can use some of the products we're talking about, like a Roth conversion, you mentioned Roth, Tommy, but the Roth conversion as a strategy to incorporate to get clients' monies from this, future taxable bucket to tax-free now and forever. And then you pair that with an explosive type of strategy where you have this great upside potential and some great downside protection. I mean, you're talking about some of the most sophisticated ideas being paired together. That's exciting to me.
Now wait till we create a life insurance product with that inside of it.
Oh, I've been waiting, Tommy.
Well, you know what? When we see each other at Ed Slot in February, we can have that conversation.
That sounds good. That sounds really good.
So all this, we've got Brookstone Insurance Group. We have the BAM series now, and we're only in the top of the second. So, for our clients, I mean, we're still at the tip of the iceberg. And, Tommy mentioned Ed Slott. You've been a longtime partner and friend of Ed Slott. He's talked at several of our conferences. You go to his conferences. As a matter of fact, you're going to be gracing the La Jolla, California conference here in a couple weeks that Tom and I'll be at. So why don't you talk to us a little bit about how not only with Ed Slott, but you guys have basic and advanced training throughout the year on top of your Inspire conference. And why is that so important to you, your affiliation with Ed Slott and the training?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. It's another topic that's very near and dear to me. As you guys know, I actually still personally teach much of the Brookstone curriculum to both new and experienced advisors. It comes back down to the business goal I had in mind when I started Brookstone, which was to work with other like-minded and philosophically aligned advisors and to help them become the most enhanced and sophisticated advisors in the country. That's the goal then, 18 years ago, and that goal has never changed. And so to answer the question, if you think about trying to make somebody more enhanced, to transform them, because we could all learn, all of us continue to learn and grow, both as humans and as professionals. At the core of that philosophy is education and training. And that's why we take it so seriously. We not only provide the training ourselves, but we partner with outside firms like Ed Slott to bring in outside experts. We don't purport to know everything, but that's the concept of Brookstone. We're always going to continue to evolve together and learn together to create the most enhanced advisors in the country that we call Team Brookstone. Look, we have San Diego, we've got New Jersey, I'm in Chicago, and 1,000 other of us all over the country with this really similar philosophy in terms of providing the clients with the most sophisticated advice. So education is huge for us. And again, we do work with a lot of newer advisors to the AUM RIA space. We've built a specific curriculum, a 90-day program for them, but it starts with this core class, 2 really intense days to get them ingrained into the Brookstone platform and the philosophy, and to show them how I actually built my own practice in terms of dealing with clients and making sure you're giving them the best advice in the most holistic manner. That's a change in mindset. Most advisors come in thinking, sell a product, make a transaction. I came in and said, no, it's not a transaction and it's not a product. It's a relationship and it's a solution. That's the difference. So we're teaching about you are not selling a product. You are providing an overall solution as an advisor, and I'm going to build a long-term relationship. It's not a transaction. A lot of that happens at our core training. And then when we get to guys at you, 2 of the smartest guys in the country, we've got advanced trainings, right? With other more advanced concepts, things that get more deep into estate planning, tax planning, some of the Roth ideas, but really helping advisors, some of the charitable stuff. I mean, some phenomenal ideas we can talk about that help more seasoned advisors really take their practice even to a much higher level in terms of the advice they're giving their clients.
You also do the back office training too. So for the staff members of the advisors, you have, is it a 1-day or a 2-day program? I think also, right? Where, hey, this is how your boss is operating. This is how he does things. This is how you can support him as well, or her, as well as the clients. So when a client calls and they need this or they need that, here are the resources that we can provide you to help everyone as well. So you don't see that a lot in our industry, going that deep into an advisor's practice to help that advisor bring the game to the next level, to go from AAA to the majors.
Yeah, it's true, Tommy. It's about a 1.5-day training, but I think part of the reason for that, again, it sounds self-serving. I hate talking about myself, but I am an advisor. All the people that know me and work with me, I am an active financial advisor, just like you two fine gentlemen. I'm in the trenches. I run my own practice. I've got other advisors that work for me. I've got a staff. We've got hundreds of clients, mostly in Chicago, but now with Zoom and technology, we've got clients all over the country. So Brookstone was a firm built and started by an advisor. And so my perspective is definitely not a ivory tower type CEO founder, some corporate entity that's cold and just running it on a spreadsheet. It's always been Dean the advisor trying to build something that's much more scalable, and of course a B2B model working with advisors, but in the spirit of taking my personal practice and all those best ideas up at that Brookstone level. So I've always said I'm always going to maintain my personal practice to keep me as relevant as possible in the trenches, working with clients directly, because it does help all the decision making we make at the Brookstone level as well.
Yeah. And, both Tommy and I were with other RIAs before you came along and, changed our lives. One thing I've always appreciated about you is the fact that, there's other industries out there, other firms out there that try to make their bones by tearing down other people, their advisors, their institutions. And the one thing I've always appreciated about you is don't tear down other people. You weren't in those conversations. Show the client why you're the best option. And you've always been above that fray. And, Tommy and I, we met way back down in 2011 at Three Mentors. And that's where, I got to know you from. And that culture was something special. And, the one reason why I love Brookstone is the culture that Brookstone has, because it just is a continuation of what we had at Three Mentors. As a matter of fact, you partnered up with one of the Three Mentors, and not only, with the training, but you've brought advisors together, right? Tommy and I were both in a mastermind group that you guys developed to try to get advisors to share other ideas. And that has led to, big friendships and big strategic partnerships with other advisors that we often bounce ideas back on, Monday morning calls.
Well, there's nothing better than seeing a bunch of really smart, motivated, experienced advisors network with each other. As some of the best ideas come out of those meetings. There's not one person that's ever going to be, the be all and know all of everything. So what you're describing, the mastermind classes, this has elevated everybody's game, actually. So, I like to talk about situations or relationships in life or business that everything ought to be a win-win-win, right? Or win-win if there's two parties or three parties. It has to be a win-win. Everybody should win. And what you're describing, for example, Three Mentors and the culture and the masterminds and the relationships and the friendships that came out of that, everybody won. And we're all still winning together.
Right. And some of the people we talked to from, because of our relationships with Brookstone, Morrow, who we had on, a CPA from Los Angeles, who we had on here as a tax expert. Was it last year? Or was it 2023 or 2022? Right. And we've had other advisors on here that, look, we're not in competition with the other advisors that are part of Brookstone. We're in collaboration with them, right? Because at the end of the day, we can't take care of everybody, and nor should we want to. So, like you were saying, you've fostered that family type atmosphere that allows us to not feel threatened by other people, but we want to reach out, right? John, you've become great friends with the Meeks, so reaching out to Steve Meeks, Stephen Gale, and again having people like Gary Reed, who we've known for 25 years, coming on board and doing personal training for people. It's a nice place to be.
And the reason why I bring that up is because Wall Street has a certain stigma to it, and in my opinion, a well-deserved stigma. And that family type of culture that you've started from the top down, Dean, all the way down to your staff, which is amazing.
Shout out Maureen Lang.
Yeah, Maureen Lang, Brett Wojciechowski, Alex, Darlena.
Jason.
They've been unbelievable. But the reason why I really want to hammer this point home is that's extremely important to our client success. to be able to, like you said, we don't know everything. You can't know it. Just even with the taxes, 80,000 page tax code, to be able to have, people that are, in your inner circle in the financial industry from all walks, estate, taxes, insurance. It's one of the reasons why when I was with another big, FMO on the insurance side, that I did not feel that. And I didn't know who was suggesting using this annuity. And that's one of the reasons why I went over to Brookstone Insurance Group. And I said, I'm going to bring everything under one umbrella because Josh Nelson, I know Josh, known him for years. He helped bring me up in this industry, and I trust him, because a lot of these firms, like you said, will pitch products. So I just really want to hammer how important that point is to that culture and the absolute positive effect it not only has on guys like Tommy and I, but on our clients. So, thank you for what you've developed.
Oh, it's a pleasure to hear that. Of course, I'm tickled pink, man, because, again, we've made mistakes, but we do try extremely hard to make the right decisions, to make what we do special for our advisors and their clients. There's no doubt about that. Our heads in the game as much as anybody can imagine. And so to hear that, it just really tickles me. And thank you for that.
Yeah. So we've talked a lot about Brookstone and just really giving people, the idea of what they don't see on a day-to-day basis. And so if you wouldn't here in closing, kind of give us Dean's future. What's your vision? What do you think is going to happen in 2024, whether markets or economy? And then what is your long-term vision for Brookstone as, going in the middle innings as we start to go into?
Well, thought leadership is extremely important to me, as the founder and the guy at the top, right? So we want to parlay our success in working with advisors and growing a firm from 0 to 9+ billion into more of a national thought leadership role. We can't stop now. We've come this far. We've got an incredible network of loyal Brookstone advisors. Most are finding great success. But I think, being a thought leader in some of these really unique ideas like structured notes, structured products, some of the unique buffered strategies we're using really suits us very well to go out there and really parlay this. And the end result of that would be to simply influence even more advisors and help more clients through retirement, right? The more we can continue to build upon what we think is a unique value prop and unique thought leadership, the more people we can help. So 9 billion seems like a big number to the listeners. I think the numbers don't matter as much as our influence and our impact. And we do have the critical mass of a larger firm now to parlay that into something even more special as we try to really parlay the thought leadership even more nationwide. That would be my thoughts for the next 5 years. It's a shame to stop now because we've influenced thousands of clients, and there's just so many more, as we know, demographically, that are retiring or getting close to retirement. So I look forward to being a thought leader at a different level with all of us together as one Brookstone team nationwide.
And that's it. I think that's how we finish on there, Tommy. I mean,
Sounds good.
That's Dean being Dean. And, folks, we really value Dean coming on, spending, almost an hour of his time with us today. Can't wait to catch up with you in a couple weeks in La Jolla. And, folks, if you want to be part of Dean's network, well, there's one simple way, right? You can just work with Tommy and I, or you can go on to brookstonecm.com. 1,000 advisors nationwide, and a culture that is a family. And I know, Tommy and I have talked about this. We get approached by other firms, and they go straight to voicemail because as long as Dean, Derek, Daryl, Mark Diorio and the crew, and Mark Levity, love it even, our compliance guy. As long as you guys are at the helm, or Matt, I'm sorry, Matt. I was thinking Mark Diorio, Matt Lovett. You guys got too many M's. As long as all those guys are at the helm, I'm a lifer. I absolutely love what you've done. So thank you very much, Dean, and thanks for spending time with us.
Pleasure, guys. Thanks a lot. I'll do it anytime.
All right, folks.
All
Well,
right.
that wraps up today's episode of the podcast. And we've got a bright 2024 off to start for you folks. And we're looking forward to bringing you more thought leaders like Dean. Not everyone can compare with him, but like him. And continue to evolve our podcast into everything retirement to help you retire happy. Take care, folks.
So long.
It's easy to get in touch with John and Thomas. If you're more on the West Coast, give John a call at 858-935-6210. That's 858-935-6210, or go online to GoSecurus.com. That's GoSecurus.com. If you're more of an East Coaster, then call Thomas, 973-394-0623. That's 973-394-0623, and online at internationalfinancial.com. That's internationalfinancial.com. And you can, of course, always just check the description or the show notes section of today's show for all that contact information. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcasting apps, and we'll see you next time on the Retire Happy Podcast.
Investment advisory services offered through Brookstone Capital Management, LLC BCM, a registered investment advisor. BCM, Securus Financial, and International Financial Advisory Group are independent of each other. Insurance products and services are not offered through BCM, but are offered and sold through individually licensed and appointed agents. The opinions expressed by John Iamarino, Thomas O'Connell, and guests on this show are their own and are based upon information considered reliable, although it should not be relied upon as such. Any statements or opinions are subject to change without notice. Investments involve risk and, unless otherwise stated, are not guaranteed. Past performance cannot be used as an indicator to determine future results. Any strategies mentioned may not be suitable for everyone. Information expressed does not take into account your specific situation or objectives and is not intended as recommendations appropriate for you. Before acting on any information mentioned, please consult with a qualified tax or investment advisor to determine if it is suitable for your specific situation. This program is designed to provide accurate and authoritative information with regard to the subjects covered. Registered investment advisors and investment advisor representatives act as fiduciaries for all of our investment management clients. We have an obligation to act in the best interests of our clients and to make full disclosure of any conflicts of interest, if any exist. Please refer to our firm brochure, the ADV 2A Item 4, for additional information.